The LA Clippers had lost 9 of their last 11 games heading into this game against the San Antonio Spurs in San Antonio. And Kawhi Leonard overcame the Boo Birds and had one of his most ferocious games in a long time. You'll see what I mean by that and how the Clippers overcame a defensive disaster to come away with the win in San Antonio on today's Locked On Clippers. Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. And, of course, subscribe to Dime Dropper on YouTube for more Clipper, LA sports, and NBA history content. And, of course, subscribe to Locked On Clippers on YouTube. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. But comment on today's pinned YouTube question, and that is Point Paul George the way to go going forward? And in this game, going to be talking about how Kawhi Leonard's absolute masterclass alongside Paul George's point guard, I can't use the same word on that one, so I'm just going to say his brilliant performance. Playmaking all night long led the Clippers to a really good offensive night. Going to be talking about why it ended up being so hard, what was so bad defensively, and something I found out about Ty Lue tonight, along with certain players that I just don't know how much more I can watch in him. And that's not to come off personal, but today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. You can find the perfect candidate for you on LinkedIn with the purple hashtag hiring frame. Let's get right into it. Clippers and Spurs in San Antonio. Clippers had already won here once already. I shouldn't say here, but won there already this season. No Devin Vassell, though, thankfully, in this one. He was a Clipper killer in the last San Antonio matchup in San Antonio. The starting lineup for the Clippers: Terrence Mann, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard Sr., and Zoo. For the Spurs: Romeo Langford, Trey Jones, Jakob Poeltl, Keldon Johnson, and Jeremy Sochan. And I thought from the get-go you could see the Clippers' defense was actually okay in the first stint. Was the only stretch, in my opinion, where it was pretty good. Was the beginning of the game for the starters. I thought that they were chest to chest. They were moving their feet well. But the Spurs players were just hitting some really tough shots. I know that seems to be redundant. You always say that, you might be thinking at this point. And I truly, though, in this game, I thought the Clippers in the beginning were defending chest to chest. They looked energetic, but they were hitting tough shots. Jakob Poeltl was hitting those contested push shots. I thought Zoo actually had a hand up on a lot of them. And then Keldon Johnson, we know he's going to be good. So I wasn't surprised that he had 23 points, shot efficiently, whatever. But Jeremy Sochan going 6 for 10 and 2 for 2 from deep. The guy shoots 21.5% from three, and he made both his threes. And then Romeo Langford made some really tough shots. I got to see him play a good amount when I was at UMass for the Celtics. He didn't play that much. And man, same with Aaron Nesmith, who was formerly on the Celtics, who's now in Indiana. He was playing with a lot of confidence that I hadn't seen before. 6 for 10 from the field for him. And Trey Jones was 3 for 6 as well. So their starters were efficient. Jakob Poeltl 5 for 10. They were efficient. But thankfully for the Clippers, offensively, they were great, and they were great all night. Their lowest scoring quarter was the second quarter with 24 points. But other than that, 33 or more points in all three of the other quarters. 41 in the first, and then 33 and 34 in the third and fourth. And those were led by Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So what you saw was Paul George handling the ball a lot and kind of being that point forward that we've been used to seeing him for the last 3 years. But since Terrence Mann has entered the starting lineup, he's played a good amount of games without Paul George. So you've seen Terrence initiate the offense to start. And the most natural fit, honestly, as I said before the season even began, I want the ball in Paul George and Kawhi's hands. And we've gotten accustomed to them kind of being the point forwards in that 2021 season. We don't have a traditional point guard. I don't think we need to go get one like some people think. I think we should lean into this. As long as we create enough good shots and defend, that's all that matters. Key word, though, is creating good shots. And Paul George, in the beginning, it was interesting. He was going after Trey Jones in the screen and roll more than Jakob Poeltl. Occasionally, he had Jakob in the screen and roll, and he was finding Kawhi for some open threes that he wasn't taking in the beginning, which was getting me a little bit annoyed. But when he was putting Trey Jones in the screen and roll, but Terrence Mann was the guy setting the screen, they were trying to get a little pick and pop action, and I thought a couple of times Paul George went downhill and made some good reads, but Kawhi Leonard, thought he was in attack mode from the jump. He was aggressive tonight. He heard the Boo Birds from San Antonio, and oh boy, he was playing he was doing his, the classic mid-range thing, hitting jumpers, but he was hitting his three ball both off the catch from passes from Paul George or off the dribble. He was posting up, hit a couple of turnarounds, and then there were a couple of times where the young guys in the other team did not know how to guard the post. They were just leaning on him too much, and he spun right by them and went and dunked. And Kawhi had 4 or 5, it was one of those numbers, 4 or 5 dunks in this game. And I've been talking all season about how Kawhi doesn't really have that burst, but tonight he hit a burst more than he had a quicker first step tonight than in any game I've seen this season and in a little bit. Obviously he missed the whole season, so I guess you could just say this season. He was getting by guys. He was not just getting them on their hip, straight up getting by guys, forcing a second defender and making plays. And there were a couple times where he got to the basket and just threw it down with authority, with a little extra oomph, with a little extra pissed off Kawhi body language. And I know when he's like that, and I love when he's like that. He could not be stopped tonight. And despite the second quarter being awful for the Clippers, going to talk about that more in the second segment, lost it 36-24. Norman Powell came off the bench and gave the Clippers a huge boost. Again, in this game, 26 points on 9 for 11 shooting and 4 for 5 from deep and made all 4 of his free throws. The guy was absolutely electric. In 27 minutes of play, he scored 26 points. Such a big part of what the Clippers are doing well right now. The few things they're doing well right now, Norman Powell has been awesome. But as the game went on, the Clippers just could not get enough stops. They trailed by 7 points at the half, 72-65. Started to tighten it up a little bit in the third quarter, and you knew the law of averages eventually you were hoping was going to favor the Clippers because they simply had the best 2 players on the court in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard had 14 points in the third quarter. He could not be guarded. It got so bad to the point where they started just double teaming him the second he got the ball. And when he was doing that, he was making some good passes and the Clippers were getting some open shots. In the fourth quarter, Reggie Jackson, you're going to live by Reggie and die by Reggie. You saw a good amount of him in this game. He did not have a good first half at all, in my opinion. He played 23 minutes in the game, but what he did do was during, I want to say it was the beginning of the fourth quarter, he was playing from the late third to the beginning of the fourth. Reggie Jackson took advantage of drop coverage and hit a couple of mid-ranges, and then he hit, if I'm not mistaken, a big 3, his only 3 in the fourth quarter off a pass on an open kick out. Yeah, it was. It was on a pick and pop with Paul George, set a screen, found the open shot, and hit a big 3. So Reggie Jackson did make some big shots in the fourth. However, I do think, and I'm going to be talking about it later, that he comes with more bad than good, as you know. And I thought that part of the reason why the Clippers couldn't guard and their bad second quarter was in large part due to him. But Kawhi Leonard has to be praised for his incredible performance tonight. He absolutely dominated his former team and carried the Clippers home. He was getting double-teamed and finding the open man, and that's how the Clippers got good shots at the end. Marcus Morris Sr. hit a big 3. He had 15 points, a really solid, efficient game from Senior, but I also think there were times where I was getting annoyed with watching him. And again, I'll explain that. It'll go hand in hand with Reggie. But 15 points for Senior, 0 rebounds, 4 assists on 6 for 9 shooting and 3 for 6 from deep. So he was very efficient. He hit a big 3 in the fourth quarter. Kawhi Leonard, 36 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 13 for 18 from the field, 4 for 5 from deep. So remember what I said about his averages are all going to go up, especially that 3-point percentage, which at one point this season was at 13. He has officially gotten his legs underneath him, and it's gone to that point where I think it's going to go in almost every time he shoots it. So watch out, NBA. Right now, the way it's looking, if Kawhi Leonard can stay healthy, knock on wood, he is looking like he's going to be that Kawhi guy, the guy, up there with anyone in the world come playoff time if he can stay healthy. And Paul George just excelled in that point Paul role. And the best stat of tonight, the stat that's going to make you go to sleep a happy man or happy woman, 16 points for Paul. That's normal, right? 7 for 13 shooting. He didn't shoot one free throw, so you're a little disappointed in that. 2 for 3 from deep, but 12 assists and 0 turnovers. 12 assists and 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers for Paul George. Can you believe it? It's not fake. Now, that's not going to be something that is a recurring theme, I can assure you. But if you can limit it to 3 or less, especially not live ball turnovers in the fourth quarter, then this point Paul George thing is going to be going back to 2021, what worked, exactly what's going to take the Clippers to the level you want them to reach. 131-126 was the final score. The Clippers move on to 24-24, back to 500. What a high-scoring game. Going to be talking about why the Clippers struggled so much defensively coming up. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. I got my Rams ambassador job on LinkedIn, and even though I was applying for a job, it's also useful for people that are looking to hire people for their business. You just got to do all you got to do is put that purple hashtag hiring frame, and yeah, you're good to go. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's talk about just why this game ended up being so hard for the Clippers. Again, I repeat, I think that the Spurs in the first quarter just came out and making shots. But when the Clippers went to their second unit, there was a period of time where Paul George and Kawhi were out at the same time, and it was Norman Powell, Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, Nico Batum, and Musa. And I'm happy that Musa played. He played for 6 minutes. But what really surprises me is that Musa Diabate was further along in the pecking order than Robert Covington. That's a little concerning and just shows how far down in the pecking order Robert Covington truly is. I mean, I'm happy that Musa got minutes. You know, I want to see Musa play. But it's still very clear that Musa's really raw, and it's going to take him time to get adjusted to the NBA game. And the Clippers don't have that much room for error in game number 48. That's why it was kind of hard with Musa. So he was switching on everyone. We know that's something that we love about Musa, is that he's able to switch 1 to 5. They were targeting him, though, in the pick and roll, and he was struggling guarding certain NBA players. I thought he was putting up a good hand on some of them, but these are NBA players. They're going to go at the rookie, and they were having success. I think Musa definitely needs to bulk up a little bit in the summer. Seems like he's getting bullied a little bit. And he also is a little undersized for a 5. He's actually, no, he's 6'11". He's listed at 6'11". Then maybe he's just skinny because he looks a little small out there at times. Or maybe it's just because we're so used to Moses Brown. But Musa, he will be okay. He had a tough night. It was just a tough time defending for him. But it's not made that much easier when, you know, Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell are out there. And the thing about Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, and Marcus Morris that really sticks out to me is that they don't really make any second effort. There's a deflection, you know, a loose ball, or someone, you know, everyone's battling for a rebound. They're nowhere to be found. They're kind of just standing around watching. They're man sometimes. If there's a scramble and guys are all ball watching or something, it'll be their man that comes in for a putback dunk or an offensive rebound. Those guys, you rarely ever say, "Good hustle, senior." When was the last time you said that? Good hustle, senior. Good hustle, Mook. Because I say good hustle, Nico. Good hustle, Terrence, a lot. But I don't say that about Morris. And for him to have minutes at the 4 tonight, you know, second tallest guy out there, even late in the game, was the tallest guy out there damn near. And he had 0 rebounds. That's going back to the reason why I said that Marcus Morris should be traded before the season. Reggie Jackson as well. I thought when he came in that second unit, yeah, Norman Powell was scoring a lot, but he was initiating everything. And it seems to me very clearly that Reggie Jackson, I saw it in his body language, telling people what to do. he wants to show that he's still good. He wants to show that there's no reason why he should be out of the rotation. He knows John Wall and Kennard are out, and if he doesn't start playing well, that he's going to sit. And to me, he wants to show that by getting the ball and creating offense and scoring. But to me, if anything, the only chance he has of playing is to realize that, look, I'm not that great of an on-ball creator anymore. Let me sit in the corner and sit off the ball and wait for Paul George, Kawhi, and Norman Powell to kick it out to me for open shots. Catch and shoot Reggie. But he wasn't doing that in this game. And I just think it was becoming Reggie hijackson. He was hijacking the offense. It was a little much for me. A lot of dribbling. He rejects screens. I just don't feel comfortable with the offense with Reggie Jackson at the controls of it anymore. It's just he's regressed. He's declined a bit. He's very hit or miss. If you want a team that's going to win 40 games or something, 42 games, then you give Reggie Jackson a big role. If you want to win a championship in 2023 and you have Reggie Jackson in 2023, he just can't play that big a role. That's just my opinion. And I think defensively he wasn't very good. As I said, no second effort. But you know what's funny? It wasn't just the bench. When Paul George and Kawhi came back in the game, nobody was defending. Paul George was getting blown by. And Zubac, he had 12 and 16 and he had 8 offensive rebounds. I thought he had some good moments. 6 for 10 from the field. But overall, Zoo has not been as good in this last 15 to 20 games after the first 20. The last time the Clippers came to San Antonio, Zubac was the player of the season at that point. But it seems like he's just a little bit slower on defense. I think there's a part of it is that the guards aren't doing a great job getting over screens. But it seems like Zubac is a little slower to react, a little bit later on those contests, on those big men rolling for those push shots. Seems like teams are just scoring on his contests more. Before, he was playing all NBA level defense, and now he's just playing average defense. That's how it's coming across. So if you think there's something more to it with Zoo, maybe it's the guards not getting over the screens well enough. Maybe it's that he's worried that no one's going to take his man if he steps up and rotate. So let me know what you think. But Zoo, I think he had a good game, but he's not playing as well as he was before. 36 minutes for him, 12 and 16. And then in the third quarter, the Clippers tightened it up. They tightened it up a bit, outscored the Spurs by 10 in that quarter. Finally, they just started to miss shots. I don't think it was anything too drastic. And Kawhi Leonard, as I said, he went off. Paul George was finding him for shots. And the fourth quarter, still the Clippers are struggling to get stops. And the craziest part is Robert Covington was thrown in the second half. After they saw Musa wasn't really working, they threw Robert Covington in. 7 minutes he played. He had a donut. It just felt like too little too late. He was +2 in his plus-minus, but you just didn't really see much of an impact from him. And then Kawhi Leonard and Paul George brought the Clippers home. But all game, it just felt like the Clippers were just trying to outscore the Spurs. It was just very unconvincing on the defensive end. But also just good offense from San Antonio as well. Josh Richardson had 17 points off the bench on 6 for 10 shooting and 60% from deep. And I saw Josh Richardson in Boston. He's a pretty streaky player. This season, he's shooting 36% from deep and 44% from the field. So, again, he's just totally above his average tonight, and I don't think all his shots were easy. Even Stanley Johnson, who's known to not be a three-point shooter, was 2 for 3 from deep tonight, but he's also shooting 48% from 3 this year, so I guess I can't say anything there. The Spurs overall shot 54% from 3, 57% from the field, and still lost. They only had 6 turnovers in the game. The Clippers, on the other hand, shot 63% from the field, 53.6% from 3, and turned the ball over 9 times. So Paul George having 0 turnovers is a huge reason for that. Ivica Zubac and Marcus Morris and Robert Covington and Musa also had 0 turnovers. So let's give them a little hand in the comments for that. But the Clippers shoot really well, end up getting the W, and it didn't come easy. And in my opinion, my concluding thought to this is Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris, it's getting hard to watch. It's getting hard to watch because if their shot's not falling, it's just not it. It's just not it. When Luke Kennard comes back, I don't think Reggie should play. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now. I'd say a week or two. And then Marcus Morris, I don't know. The Clippers should try to look to make a move. I don't think it should be for a point guard. It should be more for a backup big or something. But Marcus Morris, again, I wouldn't mind if he came off the bench and just got less minutes, but Ty Lue loves him. And coming up, I'm going to talk about something I found out more about Ty Lue. You can date it back to the first season, but tonight it was just more and more clear. Something about his strategy coming up. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? You got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and my goal is to eat healthier and put on some more pounds of muscle. And by doing that, you got to have the protein that's in Built Bars. And you know what the funny part is? It's not just a protein bar that it just tastes like one of those like cardboard regular protein bars. It's covered in 100% real chocolate, so they actually taste good. And they have this chewy interior that makes it feel like you're eating a candy bar and not something that's quote unquote healthy. They come in unbelievable flavors. My favorite is raspberry. Coconut's also good, but churro is one of their newer ones, and I haven't even tried it. It sounds great. Peanut butter brownie and coconut almond as well. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros, and what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't even need to just go on Built.com for them. You can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. If you're close to Sam's Club, run and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. All right. To close out, let's just read the box scores real quick for players that I haven't gone through for the Clips. I already talked about Kawhi's 36-point, 13 for 18 shooting game. Paul George 16 and 12, 0 turnovers. 12 and 16 for Ivica Zubats. 15 points for Senior, and 10 points on 5 for 6 shooting. The only miss coming from a right corner 3 for Terrence Mann. So 21 minutes for Terrence. He just did not play that much in this game, which, again, I have a problem with. And 21 minutes played. His plus minus is minus 14. So I guess the analytics, or I'm sorry, the plus, that's not even an analytic, is it? The net rating or the plus minus doesn't favor him. But Terrence Mann, I still thought played decently. I thought the only reason, you know why his plus minus looks bad is because he was in that lineup with Musa and Reggie and Norm. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's why plus minus, especially single game sample size, is very flawed at times. Nico Batum, only 3 points, 1 for 3. Definitely made his presence felt, though. And then Musa had a donut. No rebounds. No nothing. He had a straight donut across the board and was minus 16 in 6 minutes, so that's tough. As I said, Norman Powell, 26 points on 9 for 11 shooting and 4 for 5 from deep. Reggie Jackson finished with 13 points on 4 for 11 shooting and 1 for 5 from deep. So he wasn't efficient, but he made some bigger shots, some shots in bigger parts of the game. But my main takeaway from this all is Ty Lue is an offensive-minded coach, and that is why he is. I've said this several times on the podcast, but it's becoming more and more clear that the lens he views the game in is offense first. In the first season the Clippers had this man, they had a top 10 offensive rating, and they fell outside of the top 5 in defensive rating that they had that first year with Glenn Rivers. I think we were still like 8th or 9th, though. But I remember everyone saying to me, Ty Lue is a great offensive coach. Like in Cleveland, they had such a highly rated offense in 2017, but their defense was always kind of middle of the pack. And if you look back at that Cleveland Cavaliers team that won the championship in 2016, they had probably, of every championship team that I've witnessed in my 18 years watching basketball in live time, probably the worst defense. And every championship team has to have good defense, don't get me wrong. But they were like the least good in my opinion. Miami Heat 2006 wasn't insane either. But everyone else, I mean, you go down the line, the Warriors teams that won the chip, the Toronto team, Milwaukee, 2020 Lakers, Gasol and Kobe Lakers, who I think weren't as great defensively as some other dynasty teams or teams that went back-to-back, but they still locked up. And then Miami Heat were a very good defensive team. San Antonio were always a good defensive team. So just to name a few, Boston when they won. That Cleveland team wasn't that great defensively. And the Clippers last season, they had a good defensive rating. You know, you saw a lot of Nico, saw a lot of Terrence at times, Amir, and then Robert Covington at the end of the season. But this season, you're seeing with the 3-guard lineups that we've finally gotten past after all these games, that was an offense-first approach. He thought he could get away with it. He couldn't. Small ball to spread the defense out. And by the way, I need to mention, he did take Zoo out of the game late, and he knew Kawhi was going to get double-teamed. So when we had Marcus Morris the 5, Paul George, Kawhi, Norman, Reggie, that was also a sign that he's okay with going with Reggie and Norm to end the game and Senior. He was like, look, I want shooters out there. Kawhi's going to get double teamed. I want them to make shots. And tonight or on Friday night, it paid off. But he may not always get that lucky because the Spurs just went cold at the end. Jeremy Sochan missed some bunnies around the rim late in the game. But to me, a couple of things emphasize that he's offense first besides that 3-guard lineup and the small ball approach to start this season. 1, he takes Terrence Mann out first of the starters, not Marcus Morris. Big issue for me. Marcus Morris is clearly the worst player in the starting lineup by my eyes. If you agree or disagree, please comment. But Marcus Morris is the worst, in my opinion, of the starters because when he's not hitting shots, he doesn't contribute. He's not a very good defender. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't move without the ball. He doesn't get to the basket. He's a tough shot maker, and he's a tough shot taker. And that's about it. Good floor spacer. To me, when Terrence comes out first, that's a problem. Now, I know he wanted him in, maybe for defensive purposes, because in this game, Kawhi and Paul George weren't going to be staggered. But normally, I think we should stagger Kawhi and Paul George. One of them should always be in at all times. And tonight, they didn't do that. I think that's because Paul has just come back from the minutes restriction. By the way, in the minutes category, Kawhi, 38 minutes logged. Paul George, 32. Kawhi played the most minutes of any Clipper. So I'd assume that those minutes are going to go up for Paul George. And again, by the way, Kawhi Leonard did start the fourth on the bench. The Clippers just got away with it. Paul George started the fourth quarter playing. But besides the Terrence Mann going to the bench first thing, the next thing I think shows he's an offense first mind. When Reggie Jackson is hitting shots, made a couple of shots, like 2 or 3 shots, and he's still shooting inefficiently, that gave him the license to stay in for the rest of the game. And it may give him, in his mind, the license to play him even more next game. And Terrence Mann sat the whole time. We had Terrence Mann, Rocco, and Nico on the bench to end the game. And because it's the Spurs, we got away with it. But that just shows me, Reggie made a couple of shots, and he was like, you know what? Let's close it, Reggie. He wants to see shots go in. It seems like he cares about that more than defensively. And I really disagree with that because I've always seen things from a defense-first lens. So I guess that's why now I've been critical of Ty Lue, because he clearly is seeing things from an offense-first perspective here. He had Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, and Senior out there all at once. And I don't know why he prioritizes Senior over Nico at all. Because he always talks about his floor spacing and his ability to hit shots. But Nico's better at every other thing besides scoring and shooting. And Nico's not a bad three-point shooter. I've always been of the belief that Nico should start and end games. But anyway, at least the Clippers won. So you can have a good weekend with that. As we go into Dallas on Sunday for a very, very early game. 11:30 it's been moved to. So set your alarms. 11:30 local time. Clippers going against the Dallas Mavericks. You already know how Luka is. Clippers beat them up in LA a couple weeks ago, a game I was at. Great game. The best performance the Clippers have had, maybe this entire season, but up there with any. And this wasn't a good performance to me for the Clippers. It was a good performance from certain individuals, but it wasn't a very good performance overall. But all that matters is the win, because there's no such thing as a bad win in the NBA. And I want you to tell me in the comments, is Point PG the answer? After the game, they asked Ty a little bit about the Paul George thing, and he kept saying Paul's the point guard, Paul was point guard, so it seems they're going to be leaning into that going forward, which I'm okay with. As long as he can limit the turnovers, it works perfectly, because we want Kawhi to be the number one guy. We want Kawhi to be the guy that takes the most shots, that's the most aggressive. But we also want Paul George to be the second guy, and by putting the ball in his hands more than anyone on the team, that makes him feel like he's doing just as much as Kawhi in a different way, and I really like that approach. But that's it. 131-126, the Clippers beat San Antonio twice in San Antonio this year. They also got a win over them in the 3-game stretch that Kawhi was healthy when Paul George got injured, and he was absolutely cooking them in that one. The Clippers, 131-126 winners, 24-24 now on the season, but sadly for the Clippers, the Golden State Warriors got a win in Cleveland, extremely shorthanded on Friday night as well. But they are in 6th place. The Mavericks are 3 games over 500, and the Sacramento Kings have now moved into 3rd place, 7 games over 500. Can you believe the Kings are the best team in the Pacific right now? The whipping boys of the division for so many years. You got to be happy for them. But that's it for me tonight, or today. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for more Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA history content. And thanks for making Locked On Clippers your first listen today. Now make your second listen game-to-game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On game-to-game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow game-to-game on Locked On NBA. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. The age-old proverb continues, Go Clippers!